Oh, Raspberry Spurs fans. Welcome back to the Hepler Football Channel. We're talking about the post-match ponderings for the Newcastle United Spurs match from Sunday, the 4th of April. Oh my gosh, there's a lot to unpack here. It's Spurs. I mean, there's not much else to say other than that, I guess. So what we do here with the post-match ponderings is we go through the good, the bad, the ugly of the match. So we talk about the good things that we saw, whether it's player, tactics, just play or anything going on. The bad is kind of in the middle. We talk about bad things that happened that we noticed and took note of. And then also we talk about the ugly things in the match. So we're going to do that today. With this result, 2-2 tie that the Spurs ended up with Newcastle, puts them in 5th place. And this is prior to the Monday matches before the Everton and the West Ham matches. So things could shake up still a little bit here before this week finishes out. So also, I want to apologize for not being on for the past week or so. Been busy and I had a knee surgery, so that explains my absence. But things are going better now for me, and I'm able to where I can probably get back into doing my regular routine of 2 to 3 videos a week, hopefully. So, but we're going to look at this match. It puts us in 5th, as I said. Everton, if they win, that puts 4 teams at 49 points. And so that's, a pretty tight thing that we got going on here. And if West Ham loses and Everton wins, that is. So there'll be like 4 teams sitting at 49 points, all fighting for 5th or 4th. With Chelsea losing, it had opened the door for us. Didn't expect that to happen. I don't think anyone expected Chelsea to lose, especially like that, to Southampton. But it definitely opened the door, and in typical Spurs fashion this year, when an opportunity opens up, we slam the door in our own face. So with all that being said, we're going to get right into the good, the bad, and the ugly here. So first we're going to talk about the good. And as we go through each of these, tell me what your good, your bad, and your ugly is down in the comments. Let's have a conversation and talk about this team we love so much. So one of the good things I noticed in this match was Ndombele. I thought he was doing a great job in that holding midfielder position, that pivot with Højbjerg, as he's done for most of the season. I've talked about it before. If we push him up, he seems to fatigue a lot faster, and he's not quite as effective coming from a more advanced position. When he can come from a deeper position, he seems to impact things a lot better going forward, and he's played some really good defense. He makes some good tackles. He's timely. He helps cover. He's done a great job. And he does what he always does. He's dribbled through players, around players. I mean, he causes havoc in that midfield. So he's done a great job. I think he was one of our big good points in this match. And he got the assist on one of the goals. So, part of that first goal that Kane got was through link-up play from Ndombele. So he was involved in both goals. And so that was an exciting thing to see. And he's also making a lot of threatening passes. He's getting a lot better at picking his head up, picking out passes, making dangerous passes. Not always coming off, but it does put pressure on the defense and gets them to thinking, hey, there's a lot more I got to cover than just what I can see in front of me or what's just readily apparent. So Ndombele did a great job there. Another bright spot or good thing I saw was Rodon. Probably the best defender by a country mile on our side of the ball. It wasn't even close. One of the things I've been really impressed with watching him, the little bit of time we've been able to watch him, is his defensive IQ, his IQ on the pitch, what he sees, how he processes it, and turns it into action. And so with his high IQ, he's got obviously a high IQ. I mean, during the international break, he was captaining his Welsh team. So if we're saying we need a captain in that back line, he should be an option for that because he's captaining a national team. And we're looking for a captain. I know they're out there going to be looking for that this summer, but I think Rodon's an option for that too. And maybe, get another good strong figure and Rodon's in there and he can be a strong figure and learn from a more experienced guy. But that's coming up. That's down the road. But nonetheless, I think he played an excellent match. With his IQ, it allows him to be proactive in seeing the field rather than reactive. And we'll talk about some reactive down here in a little bit. Not with Rodon, but with someone else. But he is able to put himself in position well before the play actually develops and occurs, which allows him to be very comfortable in how he's handling most situations. And he's probably not the paciest guy. Newcastle had some pacey guys. He was not beaten with pace because he was able to foresee what was going on, position himself well, and get himself to where he needed to be to make an effective play defensively. Another thing that he obviously provides for us is aerial presence. He's very strong in the air, provides a great aerial presence, and that's something that we've been lacking this year, especially midway through the season to the latter parts of the first part of the season. We were struggling significantly in the air, and he provides that above any other defender that we have, barring maybe Tanganga. Tanganga may not be the tallest, but the kid's got hops. He can get up. So with those two, probably in my opinion, are our best aerial presences. The next good thing I want to talk about is Kane. Kane does what Kane does. He knows we needed a goal. He went out and he got it. Wasn't pretty the first one, definitely. But he's like, you know what? We got to get a goal. We got to respond. And he did it. And had good link-up play through Ndomble to Lo Celso. And got him in a position where he could just affect the play and then finish it off. And then he got a second goal. So he got a brace on this match. But beautiful pass out wide to him. Doesn't mess around, just puts it in the corner, far corner. Classic Kane. I mean, the guy is clinical. If you give him any kind of space, and there was no one in front of him defensively other than the keeper. And the keeper's just like, oh my gosh, look at this big old goal I got to cover. And I got Kane coming at me and shooting. Even though it was about, 18 to 20 yards out, doesn't matter. When he doesn't have anyone in front of him, it's just cakewalk for him. And so Kane did his typical match. He played well. He was all over the place, dropping deep. He was, the 4-4-2 set that we started off with Vinicius allowed Kane to be very fluid in where he was moving and what he was doing. And that's something that he's done even in the 4-2-3-1. So I see Kane being more of, he's not Messi, don't get me wrong, but he's playing a lot more like Messi does, where Messi just kind of floats and ebbs and flows into the open spaces and where he's needed and where he's most effective. And that's a great thing. I mean, it speaks to Kane's ability physically and technically, and also his mental intelligence on the field. So great job there with Kane. The last good I have is Lloris. We would have lost this match were it not for Lloris. I know he's had struggles, not just recently, but throughout the season here and there, and then going back into last season. And there's a lot of talk about whether he's, needs to come back for another year or two or whatever. But he kept us in this match early on, made some great saves, allowed us to actually be able to get a lead. Because if it were not for him, they would have been up 2-0 on us instead of 1-0. And the 2 goals I don't even attribute to Lloris at this point. I'm going to go back through and watch it again, but from just my first watching of the match and everything, I can't attribute the 2 goals to Lloris. As defensive breakdowns in the defense and the midfield and everything. So Lloris is kind of absolved of those. But I think this is one of his better matches he's had in a little while. He actually came out off of his line a little bit once in a while. One thing I will say about their keeper, if you noticed, he got outside his 6-yard box, which you hardly ever see Lloris do, which I think can be a fault that Lloris has. He's very scared to get off his line, get outside that 6-yard box. But there were a number of times, if you saw their keeper, he was flying out to mitigate the danger rather than wait for the defense to do something with it, hope the defense takes care of it when he had an opportunity. I mean, he didn't throw himself out there willy-nilly, but it was definitely a little bit of contrasting goalies there, and it was good to see what happens when you do have a goalie that's can recognize the danger and is willing to go and do something about it, even if he has to get off his line. Now, it's all, it's a case-by-case basis, but, they both play. I thought that both goalies played well. But so we're talking about Lloris, and he had a pretty good match. So now we're going to start talking about the bad. Remember, bad's kind of in the middle. It's probably a little lower than middle, but it's not the worst. So the ugly is the worst. So let me know what you all think was bad in this match. In my opinion, I felt like we came out kind of lacking intensity and desire. I mean, if you just look at the numbers, while we had in the first half possession about 60%, they outshot us almost 3-1. So they had almost 3-1 shots over us. So that tells me that we're definitely not being aggressive enough, closing them down, getting after them. In kind of the way we set up, we left some gaps definitely on the wings. But just because we leave something open on the wing doesn't mean we can't close it down and not allow it to become a threat. And I didn't feel like we did that very well. Whether it's because Hoiberg and maybe Ndombele were supposed to drop into those wings because the pushing up Region and Tanganga a little bit. But just the entire intensity. And I don't know if players were tired from the international break or what. It just didn't seem like we were as intense as an Aston Villa game. And if you ask me, Aston Villa is a better team, personnel-wise, than Newcastle United. And I felt like we just were like almost... seemed like we felt like we were going to walk through this and be on to the next match. And we were going to be good. And it wasn't until they got their goal that we woke up and said, ooh, we better kick in some effort here, because this is going to get away from us real quick. And even after that, they still they outdid us in the first half, statistically, effort-wise, in most cases, statistically, but other than possession. But we didn't do much with the possession when we had it. And so that's one of the big things I think with Jose's players that are his effort players, we didn't get that effort. Not like to the same level as the Aston Villa match, I don't think. So that's an issue. That's a concern. And it may take a couple more matches to kind of ferret out where the real issues are here. But I know there's definitely player issues within the team, but I've talked about it before. It's also the coach's responsibility to make sure the players are ready to go. They're professional players that get paid to play a game, but they're also, a lot of them are pretty young. So you got to help them along. The other bad I have, I'm going down on my second bad now, is Tanganga. I'm a huge Tanganga fan. I think he's one of our bright spots going into next season. He actually didn't have a terrible game, but he was involved in one of the goals when he didn't close down the defender on the outside fast enough. I feel like he didn't get there quick enough, put enough pressure, and tried to change or affect the kind of cross that was being put in by the Newcastle player. But he also had some good plays. But to me, that's kind of leading to a goal, so it moves him into the bad category rather than just kind of leaving him in nothing, not being talked about in good or bad. But this is probably one of the weaker matches I've seen Tanganga play. And there was a number of times that he was out on the wing and they just would not pass to him either. And I don't know if that's because they don't trust him out there or they're not familiar with him out there. They haven't played enough with him out there. But it seems like we always were looping around to the left side to get the Region, which I understand Region's a more attacking player and stuff, but when you don't even use that side, it allows them to not even worry about it. So we got to use the entire field and all the players to create pressure on their defense when we have the ball. But we didn't do a good job of that. And that's really the big thing with Tanganga's match that put him in a bad category for me, was not closing down that player. Other than that, I thought he had a decent match, not a good or great match. Nothing that was hugely positive. The next bad thing I have, and it's going to be a sub, is Lamela. While Lamela came on, provided a lot of good energy, a lot of positive things, that last breakaway in the last 15 minutes when it was him and Kane and Song going 3-on-3 down the pitch, Lamela couldn't get it figured out, what he needed to do with the ball. And when he can't figure it out, his default is just to dribble. And he was dribbling. And he had an opportunity to push the ball out to Song to create a little more width, create a little more pressure on the defense. The three defenders that were working there against Kane, Song, and Lamela. And he did it. And then he dribbles into two guys. And then he's left with only dumping it out to Kane after the fact. And that allows them to kind of get, at least the defense, the Newcastle United players, allows them to get themselves organized a little bit by the time he makes that pass. It's what we've talked about and what everyone, I'm sure, has seen, is there are times when Lamela can't process what he needs to do fast enough. And then the moment's gone and he can't do anything about it. And so I think that was a huge mistake, because we had an opportunity there to go and put this thing to bed. It would have been done 3-1. And that was before they got their second goal to tie it up. Just a few minutes before. So to me, that was a critical bad play by Lamela, with a huge opportunity, with a fresh Song, because Song only played the second half, and you got Kane who's sitting on a brace waiting to get his hat trick. So that was a little frustrating that Lamela couldn't pull the trigger. But that's just me, in my opinion. So, and then we're going to talk about the ugly. And for me, the ugly is Sanchez. And I want to start with I talk about it all the time. While I'm watching the match, I'm sitting here going through making notes. And for Sanchez, I've got 7 negative tick marks and only 2 positive tick marks in Sanchez's column for the entire match. And I feel like that's not being overly critical, because this is the polar opposite of Rodon. Sanchez is a reactive player. He's the opposite of Rodon. He doesn't have the match IQ or the game IQ, apparently, to understand what's happening in front of him and how to position himself and mitigate the risk. He's constantly in a poor position, which puts additional pressure on the other defenders around him and puts him in a bad position to defend on a regular basis. And he's also a part of why the 2 goals happened. The first one, Tanganga tried to clear it out, didn't get it out, but then Sanchez, knowing he's the last line of defense, rather than trying to just get it out, tries to pass it up, hits it into a Newcastle United player, and then boom, they're right there on the break at 20 yards out. And he has to understand, hey, I'm the last guy. It's got to get out of here. We're not in a great position. He doesn't have the awareness, tactical awareness, and the wherewithal to decipher and process what is going on. I believe he only does what he's been told, no matter what the situation is. And that's, what you're told to do is relevant on a case-by-case basis of whether that's effective or the right thing to do. Just because you're always told you're going to pass out from the back to your outside back or your holding midfielder is not how it should always work. And he seems to just always be stuck in this mindset of, this is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to do it, be damned. So he just didn't allow us to have a solid backing back there. I mean, Rodin was probably the only good defender we had, as I said. But also he was involved in the early in the match before they even got their first goal. He let a guy go right by him, an open header from 3 yards away that Lloris miraculously saves to keep us scoreless in the first 20 minutes of the match, 20, 30 minutes of the match before they get their first goal. He just let the guy go right by him. It's almost like he was a statue. I mean, these are some of the things he doesn't process. It doesn't happen quick enough. He can't see it happening to be proactive. He has to be reactive in everything he does. And that's why you see him a lot of times. Yeah, he makes some nice blocks, last second blocks, but it's because on a number of occasions that he's allowed the defender or excuse me, not the defender, but the attacker in a good position to take a shot. It's because he's not making positive, proactive decisions and actions to mitigate the risk. I mean, he's got some decent physical attributes, quickness, and I mean, people talk about his strength, but I don't see that he's that strong. He can be decent in the air if he's only got to go up against one person, but if it's, if he gets in a bunch, he gets lost a lot of times. But he was involved in both goals. I mean, he has fault in both goals. So to me, he was the ugly. And it's not even something that's a once in a while thing. And I say it all the time. He usually does some good things within a match, but he also does a lot of bad things. And this time the bad things got us. Twice it burned us, and one other time it almost burned us, but for Lloris saving his bacon. But Sanchez is, at this point, for me, he's not even a good squad player for us. We can't rely on him. And if someone's not out there telling him what to do every moment of every match, we're in jeopardy when he's on the pitch. He's not a good passer of the ball out of the back. And teams know this, so they don't even usually pressure him heavily when he has the ball. It's usually Jan or Rodin, who is actually a better passer out of the back. They'll pressure them to not allow them a good view of what's going on to make a good pass out of the back, especially a long ball. But I don't think he provides any value for us. He's not progressing. He's not getting better. If anything, I would say he's regressing. I saw a player rating on Twitter yesterday, and they gave him a 5.9, and I could not believe he gets a 5.9. And I know it's based on stats because he did well on some challenge. I think he had 50% of challenges, 50% of aerial duels, a couple things like that. But it's not all about stats. It's about what they do, the person does on the pitch, and how it affects the match and everyone around them. Not just on something that's a scoring or play, whether it's for or against. It's what happens all throughout the entire match. There's 90 minutes of play. Just because a goal is not scored does not mean something positive or negative happened for a period of time. And that's what he's always involved in. He's always involved in these negative actions that don't always cost us. Sometimes because people save him, sometimes he saves himself, and sometimes the team just doesn't take advantage of it. But he's constantly causing issues. And if we want to compete at the levels of Champions League, we can't have him on this team going forward. He's one that has to be sold this window or loaned out. I don't see him as a viable option for us. That's just me. Y'all let me know what you think. But, as far as the good things, we'll review real quick. The good things we talked about were Ndombele, Roden, Kane, and Lloris. The bad was the lack of intensity desire from the team, Tanganga and Lamela. And then the ugly, we just talked about it, Sanchez. So this sets us up for quite a rough run for the finishing up the season. We got 8 matches left, 18 points available. As I said, there's a log jam here for 5th place, 4th and 5th place. We got Man United coming up. And this is why I was saying on my last video where I talked about whether we'll make top 4 or 5, that I don't think we can do it. We just are not a consistent enough team, no matter who's out there on the pitch. We don't have the consistency within the team. And this is the biggest problem with the team, is we can put together a solid 11 that can compete with most any team's 11. It's the 4 or 5 players behind that, the 16 to 18 players that we need, that's not strong enough to help this team be a Champions League team. So, as I said, we got Tottenham coming up, Everton. The Everton match is going to be huge, because if Everton wins on Monday, we're tied 49-49. And they have a game in hand on us. So that's going to be a must-win for us. So I pretty much I haven't gone through my numbers, but I'll do it and kick out a video on whether we'll make top 4 or not after all the teams have played this week. And then I can plug in their numbers and look at everything. But, Newcastle was one I had a win for us. So, and I was saying we needed 5 wins just to come in 6th behind West Ham. So getting this draw, depending on how it plays out against Everton and West Ham match, can really make it even more difficult to even finish 6th, I think. So we'll look at how things go, but let me know what you all think about the good, the bad, the ugly. Let me know what you all think about this match. To me, it was, I don't know, it depends if you're a pessimist or you're an optimist. If you're a pessimist, we should have lost this game. We could have easily given up 3 or 4 goals. If you're an optimist, we could have had 3 or 4 goals and won this match. So it really depends on what side of the aisle you're on, or with this being a pessimist or optimist. I think we got about the most out of this match we could have with the way we played, though. Coming away with a point and a slim opportunity to get 3. The way we played, I think, is about the best we could have hoped for. But let me know what you all think. Got a full week of rest for our players. Man U coming up on the weekend. And come on, you Spurs.